Alright, let's dive into something that's equal parts bizarre and fascinating. Imagine this, a 90-pound carp. Yeah, you heard that right, 90 pounds. Not your average fishtail, is it? But this isn't just about the size. It's about the story behind it, the ecosystem it affects, and what it reveals about our relationship with nature. So, buckle up, because this is one of those stories that starts with a massive fish but ends with a lot more to think about. Here's the hook. I recently stumbled upon a story from Block Club Chicago about a photo intern, Giacomo Cain, who witnessed forest preserve workers hauling in this monstrous carp from Schiller Pond near O'Hare. Now, carp aren't exactly the stars of the fishing world. They're bottom feeders, not exactly the trophy catch you'd brag about. But this one? It's a different story. What makes this really interesting is that this carp isn't just big, it's invasive. And that's where things get complicated. From my perspective, the fact that this carp weighed 91.4 pounds and had likely been lurking in the pond since the 90s is mind-boggling. It's not just a fish, it's a symbol of how invasive species can thrive in ecosystems they don't belong in. Carp, especially bighead carp, disrupt water quality by releasing phosphates and nitrates as they feed. This isn't just a local issue, it's part of a bigger trend of invasive species taking over habitats worldwide. Personally, I think this story highlights how easily we can underestimate the impact of non-native species until they become a problem we can't ignore. One thing that immediately stands out is the method used to catch this carp, electrofishing. Yeah, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's real. Fisheries biologist Jim Phillips and his team used electrically charged devices to stun the fish, causing them to float to the surface. What many people don't realize is that this method is actually pretty common in fisheries management. It's efficient, but it also raises a deeper question. Are we doing enough to manage invasive species before they become unmanageable? What this really suggests is that our approach to invasive species is often reactive rather than proactive. By the time we are electrofishing 90-pound carp out of ponds, the damage is already done. In my opinion, this story is a wake-up call. We need to rethink how we introduce species into ecosystems and how we monitor them. Otherwise, we are just setting ourselves up for more stories like this, and not in a good way. A detail I find fascinating is how this carp became a local spectacle. When it was hauled to shore, a crowd gathered to gawk at this pond monster. It's almost like something out of a horror movie, right? But it also shows how disconnected we are from the natural world. Most people probably didn't know this carp was even there until it was too big to ignore. If you take a step back and think about it, this is a perfect example of how nature can surprise us, even in our own backyards. This raises a deeper question. What other monsters are lurking in our local ecosystems, and what are we doing about them? This carp wasn't alone. It was the seventh of its size pulled from Schiller Pond. And let's not forget the 72-pound carp caught in Humboldt Park's lagoon in 2023. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a pattern. Personally, I think we need to start paying more attention to these stories, not just because they're shocking, but because they're symptoms of larger environmental issues. As someone who's always been drawn to marine life, I can't help but feel a mix of awe and concern about this story. Or because, let's be honest, a 90-pound carp is impressive. Concern because it's a reminder of how fragile ecosystems are and how easily they can be disrupted. What this story really drives home is that every species, no matter how mundane, plays a role in the balance of nature. When that balance is thrown off, the consequences can be massive, literally. So, here's my closing thought. Next time you hear about a monster fish or an invasive species, don't just brush it off as a weird news story. Think about what it means for the environment, for our communities, and for the future. Because, in the end, these aren't just fish tales, they're warnings. And how we respond to them will say a lot about who we are as stewards of the planet. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.